Hey guys, SoCal Val here. You are listening to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast.
The Continental Classic draws to a close, and has Samoa Joe done a deal with the devil? We are just about to inform everybody as AEW Dynamite presented New Year's Smash, the first show after the Christmas break. This is the Hitting the Turnbuckle channel. I am Adam Cousins, and my co-host, my good friend, and part of our six-person tag, Mr. Dave Robinson. How was your Christmas, my man?
It was really good, mate. Really good. Really enjoyed having some family time and some downtime. I had a few days off work, and yeah, we've really had a good Christmas this year. Yourself?
Good. Yeah, mine was mustard, mate. I think Santa thinks that I love wrestling. Don't know. I've got a few shirts that you'll be seeing
Got
on
the
the
merch
show.
out.
This is the Revolution Pro one,
Yeah.
but there is a couple of Blacksmith jerseys that I'll be wearing, which I've already sent you, so you know what they are. Just before we start Dynamite, there is Dynamite AEW news that's come out. Now, we are recording this on the 29th of December, so it happened Dynamite's happened a couple of days ago. But I did want to shout out two people. One of them is Revolution Pro Wrestling, and the other one is the Ministry of Wrestling podcast. And I'm going to tell you all guys why. We met Ministry of Wrestling guys at Ignite in November, myself and Andy. There was funny shouts of war games coming from the team because they're not a rival. No podcast to us is a rival. We class them as a friend of any podcast. But anyway, we met up with those guys. Now, Revolution Pro Wrestling are doing a high stakes, their show called High Stakes in Crystal Palace in February. And it's going to be headlined, and this is where the AEW tie-in happens. It's going to be headlined by Michael Oku putting the Revolution Pro Wrestling Championship on the line against Will Ospreay. And it's going to be Will Ospreay's last UK independent show before he heads to AEW. Now, Revolution Pro Wrestling put the tickets on if you was on the mailing list. Now, I stupidly assumed that because I've got RevPro on demand that I was on the mailing list. But turns out that wasn't the case. So I was very late in signing up. I'd missed the sign-off period, that you could sign up to get your tickets. And I'd emailed RevPro earlier on in the day. This was Boxing Day, the 26th. Now, as the tickets went on sale at 6 p.m., I got a message from the Ministry of Wrestling podcast saying, "Oh, have you got your tickets?" I explained the situation to them. In the meantime, I'd gone onto my emails and received an email from Revolution Pro Wrestling with my link. So thank you, Revolution Pro Wrestling, for sending me the link late, even though I signed up late. I got my tickets. But whilst I was getting the tickets, the Ministry of Wrestling podcast was calling me to ask me if they wanted them to get me a ticket whilst I was getting my tickets. So thank you to you both. It's very much appreciated. Guys, Ministry of Wrestling, I'll shout you guys a beer. I'll probably pay about 60 quid because it'd be London prices. But I shout you guys a beer. But thank you, and thank you to the team at Revolution Pro for looking after us. Right, let's get down.
There's a lot of good people in wrestling, man. That just confirms it.
And they certainly one of them. So yeah, big shout out to both of those. Thank you very much. Okay, there's two bits of news ahead of before we hit on to Dynamite. Both leaving AEW. So last night, the 28th, it came out that Sean Spears is leaving AEW. He posted a nice, big thanks to AEW for the last 5 years. Someone, Dave, whose talents never really got the opportunity. Not saying necessarily got the opportunity to shine due to booking, but obviously AEW signing lots of, signing free agents and signing bits and pieces, just didn't get the opportunity potentially there.
Yeah, the competition is so fierce, and given who he was up against, I mean, I don't know. I think he did have some pretty good opportunities in AEW, and it's some pretty good matches. I think going back to the first, was it the first All In or the first All Out? He faced Cody. Mm-hmm. So he has had some high profile matches and been involved with some good storylines. He was part of the Pinnacle as well.
Yeah.
Just struggled in WWE as well, was getting called up to the main roster to really assert himself and become a main player. Real talented performer and great member on the roster, but perhaps never going to be the headliner or the top star, which he perhaps feels he deserves. So I'm not sure what he goes on to now. I think him and his wife are expecting again, or
Yes.
so
Yep.
maybe he's taking some time away from wrestling. But obviously wish him all the best. And he's got a training school as well. I think he runs that with Tyler Breeze, is it?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's still obviously going to be involved in wrestling and bringing future talent through as well. But remains to be seen where he ends up. I can't imagine that he goes back to WWE. Perhaps he could be in some role in NXT, even if it's a trainer, depending on what his relationship was like with Shawn Michaels and Triple H. But yeah, sad in some respects, but I don't think, given the stacked roster in AEW, I don't think it's a disaster for AEW, that one.
No, probably not. And congratulations, by the way, to Sean Spears and Cassie Lee for the second child. Quite quick. They don't mess around, do they?
Yeah.
But the WWE thing, I'm not sure. He is good friends with Cody, and clear that Cody's got a bit of stroke.
Yeah.
But I would struggle. He's got a lot of potential. I think he'd be better on the Indies.
Yeah.
Probably. Anyway.
I think he's run. I mean, he's run as Ty Dillinger in NXT, particularly before he got called up. He was great. He was probably the most over he's ever been, and then he kind of brought that back
a little bit
in AEW, but he just didn't get a consistent run. I don't know if he had injuries. I don't know if it was just purely booking. A talented, safe, steady wrestler, but not kind of pulling up any trees. I'm trying to be nice. I am a fan of him, but I can't really see the potential. I can't see really what else he was going to achieve in AEW. I can't see him becoming a TNT champion or an international champion, let alone a world champion.
Yeah.
So if he's not happy with the position, or I don't know if it's come from his side or whether it's a mutual kind of release. Not sure, but obviously there's a lot of opportunities in wrestling. There's New Japan, there's Impact. Impact could be a great fit for him. He could kind of revitalize himself there.
TNA now. It's TNA.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Is that coming to force officially?
I think it comes into force like New Year's Day.
Yeah.
So right, couple of days. So you got away with the Impact.
Yeah. But I think that could be a good fit for him. But as you say, the Indies, I think a lot of particularly American and Canadian wrestlers now look at the UK and Germany and places in Europe, a place that perhaps they haven't spent much time in, or they haven't done like a long run, and they can do a bit of traveling alongside it as well. So I'm sure he's not going to struggle to pick up some bookings.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that Leo Rush, by the way, he's actually going to Slam Masters in Wales.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they returned to the back to the banking hall. I went there, same place that I went to and met Ace Austin. Leo Rush is going there.
Great name.
Yeah, Leo Rush is going there in March, I believe. So he's kind of putting Mustafa Ali. Looked like he's eaten some spinach from Popeye. If you saw his last picture, he's coming to Revolution Pro and Progress Wrestling. So he's doing. So you're right, and there's plenty of opportunity there, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of takers for someone like Sean Spears. So we wish him well, and we'll see what the future holds. Now, someone that's left AEW, Baxter, she was an executive, but she's also the wife of one of the Young Bucks. Dana Massey has left. Now, rumors, dirt sheets, all that have pointed to the fact that AEW didn't look after the Young Bucks during Brawl Out or whatever it was called. And that's part of the reason that she left. Now, I don't know, nobody knows, so we can only speculate on that. But does this throw into question, I think they signed a new deal last year, and I wouldn't expect them to go to WWE with Punk there, but does it throw into question the future of the Young Bucks when their contracts are due up?
I think they'd probably feel a little bit lost at the minute. I don't know, I can't speak on their behalf. But as you say, the hangover from Brawl Out still kind of lingers on, like over a year after. And I think it's probably due to the lack of clarity and people's different opinions and the non-disclosures that everybody signed. Apparently, most people signed. I don't think Ace Steel's wife did. And according to Chris Jericho, he saw everything that happened and he didn't sign a non-disclosure. I don't know if you saw that. This little exchange on X with a I don't know if it's a fan or with somebody. Okay. Okay. So I really wish they would have just dealt with it properly at the time. and we wouldn't still be talking about it now. Well, maybe occasionally, but it's that uncertainty, and it doesn't make the Young Bucks look great in terms of, they got punished, didn't they? They got the belts were taken off them.
Yeah.
But it was never really addressed. And then Punk's gone on now to obviously main eventing at Madison Square Garden and in the title picture with Seth Rollins and back in WWE and doing really good business off the back of it, where the Young Bucks are just like, well, they're not on TV at the minute. They're not really in the story. Kenny's out injured as well. It's just not really sure what's going on with the Elite. And it's sad that she was there from the inception of the company, and she's done a lot in terms of merchandise and backstage. So if anybody whose partner is kind of no longer with the company and there's a shroud of mystery around it, it's going to leave a bit of a ill feeling and bad vibes. So yeah, I hope not. I hope it all can get sorted out, and I hope the Young Bucks are back on our screen soon, because I love the Young Bucks. I know they've got their detractors and people kind of. Yeah. I just love Young Bucks matches, whether it's tags, trios, whether they have singles matches. So I just want to see them back on our screens doing what they do best, and hopefully some of the politics of the last 18 months can start to clear. But I think until we know what happened, which we may never know, there's always going to be this speculation and these are the rumors of unrest. Yeah,
exactly that. Well, let's talk about more positive stuff. Let's talk Dynamite. What a Dynamite it was. So this was from the Edition Finance Arena Orlando, roughly just over 5,000 in attendance. Now, the big thing when I say this, because we're talking attendances and they get shit on about these attendances, the arena was only set up for just shy of 6,000. They pretty much sold it out, and it showed.
Yeah,
because the crowd were hot all night. A lot of times they go to Florida, they're generally hot, but it was just great to see. There wasn't any of these stupid pictures on X with the hard cam and it all taped off and all of that stuff. It was full. So that was the first thing that was good to see anyway. So the rating of the show done 843,000 with a 0.31 share in the 18 to 49 demographic, just for those people that want to know the ratings of the show. Anyway, sod all that. Let's get to match one. Oh, what a match. Right. Mox, Swerve, and Jay White in the C2 Gold final triple threat match. Holy bejesus. We always say on this show, start your show off hot. And Dave, they absolutely smashed this one, didn't they?
Yeah. And we don't see too many triple threat matches in AEW. And I think that the booking of this tournament has just been so perfect. Yeah. I don't think any of us expected that we would be getting. We didn't really know the rules to begin with of what would be happening in terms of the semi-final, but I don't think any of us expected that the three top scoring wrestlers would be facing each other for an opportunity to go on to World's End. I think everybody in the Gold League, arguably everybody in the tournament, has come out of this looking better. I would even argue that Jay Lethal and Mark Briscoe. I'm more invested in Mark Briscoe. He's had some great matches. And I want to see him have more great matches. And I want to see what happens with Jay Lethal moving forward as well, like given the losing streak and the dissension with Jeff Jarrett and the Triple J team. But these guys went out there and they put on an absolute barn burner. It was a great match. It went all over. It went in the crowd. Obviously, the triple threat as well. You've got no rules. You've got no countouts. You've got no DQ. So there was different elements they could introduce to the match. I thought the finish was really good as well. I really enjoyed that. And I wasn't sure which way it was going to go. In my head, I was thinking, are we going to get Mox there because of the story with either Danielson or Kingston? Swerve's been on such a great run. Jay White obviously beat Mox last week. And after losing to MJF at the last pay-per-view, perhaps it would have been an opportunity to put him back to the top of the card. So I wasn't 100% sure. There's some great near falls as well. I thought this was excellent. I thought it was a really, really great way to start the show.
It was. Moxley picks up the win with the Paragon Shift, got the win on that one, and he moves on to face either his teammate, Bryan Danielson, or his best friend and better enemy, Eddie Kingston. So we'll find out. But interestingly, after that match, and they went straight to Shivani was there with Prince Nana and Swerve, and we're finally getting the full circle with Swerve now. So he come on the mic and basically accepted Keith Lee's challenge for World's End. Now, Keith Lee has been built up a little bit on Collision over the last few weeks. He's been picking up victories. Brian Cage just last week in a quite a decent meat slapper for a couple of minutes that they had. My only concern with this one is it's great. It's finally come full circle. It's been a year or so in the making, which is great. If Keith Lee loses, which, to be fair, he should do, given where, Swerve has catapulted himself, does that really mean now that Keith Lee would be nothing in AEW? And on the roundabout that, Dave, if Swerve loses, does that derail the momentum he's been on?
Yeah. First and foremost, this is a strange little segment. Keith Lee said on Collision last week that he was going to Dynamite and he was going to be there.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know whether some plans changed because we didn't actually see him.
Nope.
We didn't see him in this segment, but we didn't see him throughout the rest of the show. And the cover-up was kind of like he'd given Tony Schiavone this contract just in case Swerve lost and he wasn't in the final, and just in case he didn't manage to bump into him. I just thought this was a bit weird. I'm not sure. Plans might have changed, or Keith Lee might not have been able to be at Dynamite for whatever reason. In saying that, I am looking forward to it, and I think it'll be a good match. I can't foresee Swerve losing. I refuse to see that. So yeah, you bring up a great question. Like, what happens to Keith Lee? Should he lose at the pay-per-view against Swerve? I think at this point, the only way that I'd be looking at it is aligning Keith Lee, a heel Keith Lee, with Swerve and the Mogul Embassy in the aftermath of the match. I think that's something that could create some intrigue and a different side to Keith Lee. Again, not to focus on the negativity, but I don't know if you saw a post, I don't know if it was on Facebook or Instagram, going around, a couple of years ago, Keith Lee was standing across the ring from Brock Lesnar and setting up a kind of a mouth-watering match. And a couple of years later, he's walking to the ring in a Santa hat. Now, I know it's Christmas, and I know it's kind of, I don't want to be a Scrooge, but, that is quite a significant difference to looking like you're going to be headlining a major event against Brock Lesnar to a couple of years later walking out in a Santa hat and being a bit of an afterthought. And yeah, I haven't been a fan of Keith Lee's booking or his run in AEW so far. I think he's had a couple of good moments. So I think they really do need a refresh and a change of direction. And I think after Swerve picks up the win, that's the opportunity then to start afresh with Keith Lee and a different side to Keith Lee. That's the only way I can see being a success for him. If he just loses, I could see us not seeing Keith Lee for the next few weeks or months, and we're just in the same pattern.
Yeah, the Wardlow pattern.
Yeah.
When he comes in, has 6 to 8 weeks, great build, loses the big match and then disappears.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, well, I don't want to see that. I just think this match is, there's no winner. Sorry, yeah, there's no real winner out of this because the loser really does lose. On that. So I don't know. Maybe they could do, I don't know if they could do a screwy finish. I don't know. We'll have to see. I
trust Swerve. Anything that Swerve's in has been good. Yeah. Particularly the latter half of this year.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful that whatever it is, Swerve can make it entertaining and interesting. And I want to be sitting here in a few days' time reviewing it, going, actually, that was really good. And like I'm interested into what the future of both Swerve and Keith Lee has in store, but it's a difficult job. Not quite sure how they're going to go about it.
Yep, we will see. We've only got 24 hours or so to find out. So we'll find out what happens. Maria May, was it Maria May? Mariah May. Sorry, Mariah May. I'm struggling with English nowadays. I'm getting fluent in Japanese.
But you might Takeshita ain't even been on yet.
Yeah, I'm all right with that now. Don't worry. Yeah. Mariah May was next. Pretty much saying that she was helping Tony Storm last week. 2023 sucked. 2024 is going to be about her. She's going to debut next week on Dynamite, so we have that to look forward to. Rio is here. They have a bit of a scuffle, and then Tony Storm literally types on everybody, and they retreat. So that kind of sets up A, Tony Storm's taking on Rio tomorrow, and B, Maria May's debut next week. Are you looking forward to her debut?
I don't know anything about her. I know she's come from Stardom in Japan, which is where Tony Storm had spent time. So yeah, I've total blank canvas to me. So yeah, I suppose I am looking forward to seeing if she can really add to the women's division. I'm really looking forward to the Rio Tony Storm match. I'm not expecting, and we'll get on to predictions, another show, but I'm not expecting Tony Storm to lose his title anytime soon.
No.
But I really think that she and Riho are going to have a great match. I'm constantly impressed by Riho every time, and I know she's added detractors as well because of her stature, but I think she's a phenomenal pro wrestler. And I think, this dive to the outside that she did to Tony Storm and Luther was great. I don't think she puts a foot wrong. So I'm hoping she gets a more consistent run and she doesn't disappear after the match at World's End. I hope she gets a longer story and more involvement week to week in the AEW product.
Yeah, me too. We'll find out what happens there. Top Flight was also about that. So they lost the Acclaimed in a little bit of shenanigan way, but they said that they're still one of the best trios, and they're basically still one of the best trios in the business. And then Best Friends interrupted, and that set up a match that takes up a Rampage tonight. So that should, I'll be looking forward to watching that and reviewing that myself. Miro is then showing, and he throws out a challenge to Andrade on Saturday, which has been accepted. So Miro will take on Andrade. So Andrade is property of CJ Perry, who's Miro's wife. That should be an interesting one, Dave, for that match.
Yeah, that's kind of been set up in the background, and we spoke about this last week or the week before, that there was probably going to be matches come about once the tournament was all decided.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happened with Andrade and Miro. So I suppose they've had to kind of leave that just simmering and ticking over until the point that we could get the challenge out there, which was quickly accepted and the match was announced. So again, I think this is going to be a great match. Interesting elements as well with CJ at ringside. One being a client, one being a husband. So I expect a great match and a potential show stealer from those two guys.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm going to look forward to that one for sure. Everyone's favorite manager, Don Callis, was next. The crowd were chanting "Fuck you, Callis." Yes, they did. He had a gift for all members of the Don Callis family: Will Hobbs, Konosuke Takeshita, can say it, and Carl Fletcher, which was a painting of Don Callis in these paintings with an 8-pack. Literally with an 8-pack, and that was interrupted by the returning Sammy Guevara. And basically they had a picture for him, and it was one with Don and Sammy and Sammy's newborn, which Sammy didn't really see the funny side of, and he was like, who the hell told you could do that? And then that led to Don Callis saying that you're not mentally ready to be a father. Jesus. It's like Christian Cage with that one. Basically, it all ended up in them attacking Guevara, which then led to Chris Jericho and Floyd coming out to make the save. And then we had Ricky Starks and Big Bill come out. And then to even the odds, the lights went out, and out comes Sting and Darby Allin to make the save. Now, that has set up an 8-man tag for World's End. This isn't me being negative or critical. I'm just throwing out there my opinion on this. Obviously, it was meant to get Kenny Omega, the Golden Jets versus Big Bill, Ricky Starks, and now I feel this match, and there's another match that we'll talk about on the prediction show that I just feel has been added for the sake of being added. We'll talk about that on the prediction show, but I'm not really fussed about this one, but I can see the point of them adding it because Chris Jericho was meant to be on the show, but I just feel like this is going to be a throwaway.
Yeah, I think this was a bit messy, to be honest, the whole segment. They kind of had an idea of what they wanted to get to, and this was the vehicle to get there, but I don't think it was particularly good. Just Guevara and Jericho kind of reunite is one thing, but they've actually, Sting and Darby have had matches against Jericho this year.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why they would come to Jericho's aid, from what I can remember.
No.
So not sure. Even if it was just Jericho and Guevara up against Big Bill and Ricky, and that Guevara basically replaced Kenny in the match, I think that's something they could have done. But to add another 4 guys, as you say, just seems a little bit unnecessary and thrown together last minute.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure if you were going and you had a ticket for World's End and Derby and Sting had been added to the show, you'd be pretty happy. So, and I'm sure AEW usually do a good job with the 8-man tag matches. So,
yeah,
I'm sure it'd be a good match, but there's not too much kind of story. There's bits of story all just thrown into one to get to this outcome of 8-man tag. So,
yeah,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's probably going to be a good match anyway. But yeah, I'll get on to my other, not a theory, but I'll get onto my theory.
We haven't got long left with Sting, have we?
No.
You know, he's retiring in a few months' time. So
the second to last pay-per-view, isn't it? No.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is I don't think Sting's lost since he's been in AEW.
That's one for our subscribers. Can you let us know?
Yeah, I don't think he has. So then going into this match on Saturday, is he going to lose? Now, Don Callis' family seem to lose a lot.
Yeah.
And I think they need to be picking up wins. So again, that's another thing. If Don Callis' family are going to win, then that would mean inflicting a loss on Sting. So yeah, not sure how that one's going to play out.
They seem to pick up wins as singles, but not as a team.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Speaking of interesting, Roddy Strong and the Kingdom were backstage. Roddy Strong said he's got proof that MJF is the devil. Well, we're going to talk about that a bit later on. Now, only the second match of the night now, so we've had one blistering match. This next match, Dave, I mean, you're talking storytelling. And AEW, and we just kind of criticized a little bit about stories and booking of AEW, just there, not necessarily criticize, but just an opinion. If you wanted a match that gave you the perfect storyline with the perfect wrestlers and the perfect end result, this next match was it. Bryan Danielson, Eddie Kingston. It was Rocky Balboa kind of storyline. Obviously, Eddie's got it all on the line as well, because it's his titles that are going to be all unified together to create. I think it's a triple crown. I think it's going to call the championship. Mate, this was incredible.
Yeah, it's as you say, the story, the emotion, the underdog in Eddie, everything they've used to build this throughout the tournament. You could say throughout Danielson and Kingston's time in AEW together, kind of culminated with this match. And would Eddie finally be able to beat him? Because he hadn't managed to do in any of the previous matches. I thought this was epic. I really did. Great moment for Eddie at the end when he picks up the win with the Hurricane and the power bomb, similar to how he won the Ring of Honor title against Claudio.
Yeah.
I think the emotion that he conveyed after it was legit. I think the crowd was so into it, and the crowd were kind of so happy and emotional as well. I just thought this was pro wrestling perfection. I really do. I think as well the story they've told with Eddie as well, going into the tournament, putting his life's work on the line, losing his first two matches of the tournament against, I think it was Brody King and then Danielson, but then to still triumph and come back and beat one of his biggest foes in the semi-final. I just think it was perfect. I've really got to say it again. I think the whole tournament has been perfect. I think it's been booked so well, so clever, so much stories coming off the back of it as well, which you only get with tournaments. This is the way to do it, and AEW should be really proud of what they've done with this C2 tournament.
Absolutely, it was incredible. The match was brilliant. Eddie Kingston, you say Eddie Kingston picks up the win and takes on Moxley. They had a very they had a typical promo, didn't they?
Yeah,
it was a typical Eddie Kingston, John Moxley promo. Interesting fact on this, and also Eddie Kingston was legitimately crying at the end of that.
Exactly,
which shows you. I mean, I don't think Eddie Kingston kind of just lives and breathes wrestling, which is it is so good to see. But the interesting fact is that Kingston has never ever beaten Moxley in any match that they've been again, whether that is a tag, triple threat, or single.
Yeah,
15 years, he has never beaten John Moxley. Those two meet tomorrow night for I think it's the triple. I'm sure it's the Triple Crown Championship that they call it, because it's 3 titles in one. In what will be no doubt an absolute battle between those two guys.
Yeah. it couldn't be any more, because we've not just sort of people new to the product perhaps haven't known as much of the history of Eddie and Mox. But initially, when Eddie came into AEW, he actually faced Moxley for the title. And they kind of made up. There was some bits with the exploding barbed wire death match when Eddie came out and made the save, although that didn't go exactly to plan. And then off the back of that, we saw a lot of not just matches, but vignettes and backstage stuff of Eddie and Moxie's relationship. And yeah, they two of the absolute closest friends in wrestling. But then later on, Moxley forms the Blackpool Combat Club with Bryan Danielson, who Eddie doesn't get on with. Bryan Danielson's never liked him, whether that's legitimate or wrestling. So that was a new element as well. Eddie's best friend had gone off with Claudio and Danielson, two of the people that Eddie hated the most. So they never really fell out. I mean, all in, they were in match against each other and they were kind of bickering all the way backstage. But we haven't had that one-on-one match, not since they had that title match, probably 3, maybe even 4 years ago now. And I just think we've saw Eddie's character develop so much. He's gone from the underdog, and he was still an underdog in this match, but he's a Ring of Honor world champion, as well as the New Japan Strong champion.
Yeah.
So he's achieved a lot of success in his own right, on his own, in the last few years. And to get this culmination there in a match, a man he's never beaten, a former 3-time AEW world champion in Moxley. This is just, I'm not sure what match they'll go with to headline. You would suspect maybe MJF against Samoa Joe in Long Island.
I think so.
But equally, Eddie's from New York. This could headline the pay-per-view, and Eddie's going to get such an incredible reaction in New York on Saturday night.
Would it be too much to say they could even start the pay-per-view with it?
Quite possibly, yeah. Quite possibly. Similar to Dynamite tonight, they started off with an absolute, scorcher of a match. I'm sure if Moxley's or Eddie's music hit first on Saturday night, the crowd would go ballistic. So Moxley, obviously not a heel, not a face. He's a tweener. Yeah. There's a lot of fans of Moxley, a lot of people glad that he won the Gold League. And obviously a lot of people happy that Kingston won the Blue League. I think in hindsight, could we have had Swerve win the tournament? Jay White? Could we have had someone like Roosh come up and win the tournament? Possibly. Danielson, you would think this was kind of like Tony Khan's gift to Danielson, given the fact that he's retiring and he's kind of in his last year of his full-time contract. And he hasn't actually won a title in AEW yet. You could think that Danielson was the man that was perhaps going to go on and win the tournament. But again, hindsight, I think this is the perfect outcome and the perfect match. And there's just story everywhere. The story, and the equally would have been if Eddie would have lost and Danielson would have faced Mox. There's a great story there as well, because that's how the Blackpool Combat Club was formed. Yeah. So they couldn't lose really with this. But I think this is the outcome that I wanted, and I'm really, really looking forward to the match at World's End.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Really looking forward to that one. Christian Cage was out at the back waiting for Adam Copeland for a sit-down interview, and they never really sat down. No. Copeland kicked down the door. Obviously, Mother Wayne, when Nick Wayne was all there. Copeland kicked down the door. They fight. Even the Von Erichs was still there. They the back at that point. They split him up. Good hype for Saturday's no disqualification match. There is a match on the pre-show, and we'll get into this on the predictions, that it could have a massive effect on this match, and I'll give you my view on that on the prediction. But yeah, a good kickoff to what their match is probably going to be great on Saturday. Anyway.
Yeah, when you said about the Von Erichs, I think it was probably recorded last week or the week before in Texas, wasn't it?
Yeah,
but. I mean, this was just, I suppose, a little finishing touch. Did it need it? Not necessarily, but you saw Mother Wayne kind of standing side by side with Christian, and conspicuous by his absence, Killswitch. He wasn't there, was he? So
yeah, forgot about him.
Yeah. Whether he'll play a part in proceedings at the weekend, again, we'll see. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of uncertainties going into this pay-per-view. But I think that's created a lot of intrigue, and it's going to be one hell of a show and a great way to close out the year for AEW.
Definitely. I'll give you my prediction about Killswitch on the prediction show, because it's slight bits into it. The next match was kind of a bit short on time. It was Statlander and Sky Blue. Really good. Sky Blue really sort of come on leaps and bounds. The partnership now seemed to be sort of House of Blackish with Julia Hart, but not. She's not come out with them all together, but she's obviously come out.
House of Heart.
House of Heart could be, yeah, exactly that. She does a really nice Avalanche Code Blue to pick up the win over Statlander. It's a weird one though. Statlander was this, she was the one that kind of sent Cargill packing, won the title, had a couple of good defenses, lost the title. And she's seeming on that downward spiral again. Where do they go with Statlander going forward?
Difficult, isn't it? Because Julia Hart's done so well. And Tony Storm is so incredibly over as well. So that's the two titles. I thought this match was great. It was short. It could have definitely benefited from some more time. But these are two of my favorite performers in the women's division. I think Sky Blue has just come on so much in the last 12 months. Really, really into this new character as well, and this kind of dark side and this friendship or this being aligned with Julia. I think that's really an interesting twist. And you've got Willow involved as well, who, as we said last week, also got sprayed with a mist, but didn't succumb to the darkness. I think it's leading to another match with Statlander and Willow against Sky and Julia. But we got Abaddon factored in as well. She's up against Julia Hart at World's End. So there's been a lot of good stuff happening with the women's division in the last few weeks. It was just a little short on time. I think the finish probably protected Statlander because there was the belt shot, I think, which didn't really get caught on the camera. It was a little bit we kind of saw the ref being distracted, and then Julia was on the apron, and then she wasn't. But yeah, the impressive finish, the Avalanche Code Blue. But yeah, I was glad they were on Dynamite, but yeah, I just wish they could have carved out another 10 minutes for them.
Yeah, we also got the return of Thunder Rosa as well. She returned on Collision.
We spoke about Mariah May as well. So there's a lot of top performers in this division, and they are really trying to light a fire under it again.
Yeah, good to see. And you mentioned Abaddon. They attacked Statlander after the match. Julia Hart and Sky Blue, it is. And then Willow made the save as they were heading to the back. Abaddon was there and made another exit. So yeah, interesting to see what happens there. Ruby Soho was backstage. She's got a match. She's wrestling Marina Shafir, the Problem, on Rampage. She is a problem. It's a problem booking her. Quite at the minute with Marina, but a good, decent worker. Now I was getting worried at this point, Dave, because I was watching AEW, and I'm sitting there going, "This has gone very long. We've still got the Ring of Honor tag title match." And I looked at my timer and it said it had like 5 minutes left.
Yeah, I thought the same.
What are they going to do here? So the Devil's Dudes, as they're now called, they're not called the Devil's Goons, they're called the Devil's Dudes, walked out with no music at all. And then Joe's music hit, and there was no Joe. And it goes to the backstage, and Joe is literally clutching his knee. It's seemingly been attacked. MJF is like, right. He's telling MJF, don't go out there, don't go out there. MJF, big and proud, he's going out there. He ran out there. He attacked really quickly with some stomps. MJF's obviously got his shoulder heavily wrapped. They play advantage to that. There was some masked dude under the ring as MJF was going to try and rip one of the masks off. Hits MJF with a pipe. They hit him with a heat seeker. And the other dudes hold MJF's feet down. They hold the guy on the ropes, his feet down, and they pick up the victory. So the Devil's Dudes are now the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. That wasn't the end. They all beat up MJF after the match. Samoa Joe comes hobbling down to ringside with a chair. As he gets in the ring, they all disperse, the masked dudes. The Devil then appears on the screen. It goes black and it says, "Pleasure doing business with you." And then Samoa Joe whacks MJF with the steel chair, hits him with the muscle buster. It turns out that MJF was dealing with the devil. He isn't the devil, but he was dealing with the devil, which makes me believe, Dave, your initial thought on who the devil is was right, because who was it that kept telling MJF to go partner with Joe?
Adam Cole.
Bye. So could you be right? And Tony Khan has had his media call with the media, obviously wasn't Tony. He wasn't included. Can we get on the next one? Anyway, but he said that the devil will pretty much be revealed at World's End. So that will give us an idea of who the devil actually is at World's End. But Dave, yeah, it was a short one time, so they had to do. Obviously, this was only planned to be a small ending, but one that still throws up a lot of intrigue heading into Saturday.
I really like the angle.
Mm.
I think trying to get it onto a show where we've already got these two huge semi-finals. I think it could have been done last week, and I think we could have started as much as I enjoyed Dynamite this week.
Yeah.
And the way they started, it could have come on to a pull apart brawl between Joe and MJF after this happened last week. Because it doesn't leave a bit much time going into the pay-per-view. You've got MJF, the world champion, has just been pinned a few days before a world title defense.
Yeah.
And you haven't really got much of a chance for him to react to losing the titles, the Ring of Honor titles, which means so much to him that he said he would defend on behalf of him and Adam Cole.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit rushed. But I did actually like the angle, and I like Samoa Joe turning.
Yeah.
I had suspicions when he was lying there backstage and you didn't see him get taken out and he was clutching his knee.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't be sure. I thought the reveal that Joe was kind of in cahoots with the devil, I thought that was really good. But they were just, I mean, I don't know if your feed was the same, but my fight feed, he hit the muscle buster and that was it. You didn't really get much of a chance for Joe to kind of stand there above MJF and revel in it. Don't know if that was just my feed.
I didn't
or what.
watch it on Fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was. I think he stood up. I think he stood on him with the title.
Okay. Mine just cut out after the muscle buster. So I thought that was quite an abrupt way to go off the air, but if it didn't, then so be it.
Don't watch it on Fight, Dave. Watch it on the link.
Yeah, that's the key. Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was a real good angle and I enjoyed it. I thought we might get some reveals this week as to who some of the Devil's dudes were.
Yeah.
Some people perhaps from MJF's past on the Indies were rumored, but yeah, maybe we get a full reveal at World's End or in the next week or so. My prediction, as you know from the start, has been Adam Cole.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of suspects and a lot of people step into the frame of who's the devil and who are the devil's dudes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's ready now for us to find out. We like long-term storytelling.
We do.
But I think there is a limit. And I think we're at that limit now. We really need to see who is behind this and then the next part of the story.
Yeah, definitely do. Definitely agree with you. For me, this was such a meaningful episode of Dynamite. There was storyline enhancement with the devil and stuff. There was twists and turns. There was the Continental Classic that threw up some amazing matches, and we've obviously got a great final coming up. There was so much good stuff. I'm actually going to give Dynamite a 9 out of 10. It ticks so for a go home show, and it was to go because there's no collision Saturday because the pay-per-view Saturday. There was so much that they've done right. It was hard. Could they have left off maybe the Sky Blue match possibly? But I suppose they had to enhance that because Abaddon's got Julia Hart and whatever. So there was that side of it, but I can't really fault Dynamite this week.
Yeah, unfortunately, people like us would have criticised them if there was no women's match on the card, wouldn't we? So you could say, did it necessarily need it? As much as it was a good match. So yeah, that maybe they just needed an extra 20 minutes of time, and then it
had a 5-minute overrun. They needed a half-hour overrun. That's what they did.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we'd have been up closer to a 10 out of 10. I agree with you. I don't think they did much wrong. I've got to say I'll give it a 9 as well. I think 8.5 to 9, but discussing it with you, and yeah, those two matches, the tournament semi-finals were just sensational. And as I say, slight criticisms about the go home, the end of the show, but I think that's more to do with the time constraints rather than the actual what happened. I think it was just felt a little bit rushed, but they were running out of time. So I really can't criticize too much about this show. So I'll go with a 9 out of 10 as well.
Yeah, I thought it was tremendous. I thought it ticked every box that it needed to tick. But that was the Dynamite review. We're going to be hopping on shortly and doing the review, the prediction show of World's End. So before we do that, don't forget to follow us on socials. We're at HTT Buckle on Twitter, Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, and all other social media outlets. But Dave, as usual, I leave the goodbye with you.
Yeah, it's time to bid you all adieu, goodbye, mwah, and see you on the pre-show.
Bang.